Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over a series of video presentations that I'm creating for our Rankin Technical College AWD Application and Web Development 1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class. Our textbook is ASP.NET MVC with Entity Framework and CSS by Naylor. I am in the middle of Chapter 5 of 18. In the beginning of Part 1 of Chapter 5, we talked about sorting. Alright, we just went in the second part of the chapter, so we went from sorting and we went in and talked about paging. Now in the third part, the last 6 or 7 pages in the chapter, we'll talk about routing. And the author mentions, for example, something like this is functional. You can tell it's the category of sleeping, and you can tell you're on page 2 of that category. All right. But as mentioned, although these are functional, they can be improved by using the ASP.NET routing feature. All right, which generates a more friendly URL. Now, sometimes you'll see in certain text, people will talk about pretty URLs, etc. But the idea is it's more meaningful to a user. And when I'm talking about Joe or Jane, average user probably doesn't have a lot of experience working with query strings. Now this ASP.NET routing, as they mention right here, it's not specific to MVC. All right. It's also, you know, it can be used with web forms, with web API, and a lot of other things. To keep things manageable, we're going to generate routes only for categories and paging. There won't be a route for searching or sorting due to the fact that routing requires a route for each expected combination. In other words, this can get really big fairly quickly. All right. And as they mentioned, it is possible to make routing overly complex by trying to add a route for everything. It's also worth noting that any values submitted by the HTML form for filtering will still generate URLs in the old format because that's how forms work. One of the most important things about routing is that routes have to be added in the order of most specific first. Now, in many ways, that's kind of like when you're working on error handling and how you have to have your most specific errors first in your error handling, in your catch statement. Why? Because if you put the more generic ones first, they're going to kind of usurp, engulf, or whatever you want to say, and you'll never get to the more specific. In the same way, as it says here, the routing system will search down the routes until it finds anything that matches the current URL. So if there's a general one and it's defined above the more specific one, then the more specific one will never be used. And that's what they're talking about in here. All right. Okay. So, as mentioned here, we're going to take the same approach to adding routes as used by the scaffolding process when the project was created. We will add them to the app start route config.cs file in this format. So when we look at this, what do we have? The name parameter, as it says, that represents the name of the route. It can be left blank, however, as mentioned, we'll be using names in this book to differentiate between routes. All right, next, the URL parameter, which contains a rule for matching the route to a URL format. This can have several formats and arguments, as mentioned right there. The URL parameter is divided into segments, and each segment matches sections of the URL. The URL has to have the same number of segments as the URL parameter in order to match it. All right, each segment can be a static element such as products, which would simply match that URL, a variable element, which is able to match virtually anything, and a combination of the two, or a catch-all wildcard, which will map everything following the products, in this case, of the URL into the everything segment. All right. Notice we also have the default values that are there. And it's mentioned right here, each segment can also be specified as being optional or having a default value if the corresponding element of the URL is left blank. A good example of this is the default route specified when the project is created. This route uses the following code to specify, we've seen this before. It also defines the ID as being optional. So in other words, what this is saying with the defaults is if you don't specify controllers and actions in ID, default to the home controller. If you haven't specified an action for the home controller, default to index. And it is possible for you to add an ID. That ID, though, as mentioned, is optional. So, to start with routes, as we're seeing here on the beginning of page 97, we want to add a route for allowing URLs in the format /product/category, like product sleeping. So it says add the following highlighted route to the register routes method in the app-start route config. So let's first go to that. Let's stop our run here. Let's close this up. There's our app start and there's our route config. You've seen this a little bit before, and you see there's not much in it right now. We'll be changing that shortly. All right. So in our register routes, before we've got our default, so before our route that we have in here, we're going to add this. All right, let's move this over a bit. Okay. So again, this will add a route so that if we say /products and we're using the sleeping category, for example, it'll be /products/sleeping. So we are supposed to save this, start our run. And now we're going to actually put in /products/sleeping when this comes up. Remember, this is the first of these that we're adding. And it's taking its sweet time loading. When it comes up and it gives us, there we go. When it gives us this, we're going to add /products/sleeping to see if indeed it brings up all the stuff in our sleeping category. But it is still loading. I don't like to start typing stuff in while the thing is still loading. There we go. /products/sleeping. Again, it's going to think about it. There we go. And slash product slash sleeping. Looks good. The author says, so far so good. Looks like it's working okay, and we can now use the format, the URLs in that kind of format. However, there's a problem. It says try creating on the create new. The product create page no longer appears. Rather, a blank list of categories is displayed. All right, so what you see here is exactly the same thing as shown on the bottom of page 98 in the text. That was the way we started. Now we just got this. So that looks just like this. All right. The author says, now click the back button to go back to the product list with some products displayed. Okay. It says try clicking on edit. Go back again. Try clicking on details. Go back again. And try clicking on delete, although we're not going to delete that. These all work. And the reason that these all work is because of the fact that the working links all have an ID parameter on the end of them. All right. And when we're doing a create new, so again, if we go here, if I highlight that, it says edit 6, detail 6, delete 6. But if I click on here, all right, it has no number associated with it. It's confused, for lack of better words. So to fix this, we need to add a more specific route to the product's create URL. We need to add a new route, again, in the register routes, and we need to put this above the products by category. So let's stop the run here and here, and this is what we have to add. So let's copy that to the clipboard. Let's go back to our code, stop the run, and we have to add yet another route. And since it's more specific, it's got to come before the other one that we just added. So this is a more specific route for the product's create URL. All right. So we are supposed to save, run it again, and when this comes up, we are to click on the create products link after we go to products/sleeping. And the author also mentions on the bottom here of page 99, it's imperative that the products create route, the more specific one, be placed above the products by category route. Otherwise, it'll never be used. Again, order does matter. All right, so we want to come in here and again go to /products/sleeping. When this comes up, before I even click the create new button, I want to make sure we didn't break anything. All right, we put that in, but let's make sure we didn't break what worked previously. Okay, there's our sleeping. Can we still edit? Looks like it. Yes. Can we still list the details? Yes. Can we still delete even though I won't? Yes. And again, notice you might be able to see it down here, you might not. Edit 6, detail 6, delete 6. Now when I click create new, boom. All right. So let's click back to list. Next, we're going to add a route for paging so that the website can use URLs in the format /products/page2. As you may or may not have guessed, that's going to involve us again going back into here, stopping the run. We have to add another route, but under the products create and before the products by category. So right there, we're going to add another route. I'm up to page 100 in the text if you are following along. It's at the top of the page. There it is. All right. This new thing in here, this products by page, will match any URLs with the format /products/page X, where X is the page number. Again, this route must appear before the products by category, otherwise it'll never get used. So we are again going to save. We are again going to run. Once this comes up, we're going to go over to /products/page = 4. Now remember, we have 17 products and we're showing 3 products per page. So we actually have 6 pages. Just waiting for that to come up. There we go. So /products/page = 4. And it's thinking about it. All right, notice again, 6 possible pages as we talked about before. And I gave you the math. 17 products currently in our database, 3 products per page. All right, 2 on the last, well, I guess 3 on the last page as well. Okay, maybe there's 18, I don't know. All right. So far we've added routes for the product/category and product/page, but we've done nothing for the product/category/page. All right. So let's stop this run. And right before the products, right after the first one, so down here, we want to add a new route that will allow us to do this. In other words, slash product, slash category, slash page. So we're being more selective. All right, rather than showing all the products, we want to just show the products for a specific category. Now, the other thing, and I don't mean to go too nuts on this, but notice that I am tabbing, etc. You are all to the point where in your second year, you're professional enough to do this as well. Add some white space, add some tabbing, etc. All right, so we are supposed to save this, run it, click on the shop by category, and then click on sleeping. All right, so click on the shop by category and click on sleeping. Then click on page 2. And notice the URL. It's more, again, the pretty URL. It's product/sleeping/page 2 because of the new products by category by page route that we just did. All right. We're getting there. Stop the run. Go back to our program and stop the run, go back to our text. And the author says here, I mean, this has all been working like a charm. All right, the author says here, we now appear to have added all the routes, but there are still some issues with how routes affect the site. To see the first remaining issue, start the website filtered as shown in figure 5.8, all right, which is up here. I guess it's right where we just were. Then try to choose another category from the drop down. So let's go back. Wish I'd not stopped running it, but I did. And we're getting up there again. We're already at 22 minutes. All right, so again, we want to go to the shop by category, sleeping, page 2. It says, then try to choose another category from the drop-down by clicking the filter button. The results are not filtered and remain in the sleeping category. This is because the HTML form no longer targets the product's controller index method correctly. To resolve this issue, we need to add one final route to the app start and then configure the HTML form to use it. First of all, add the new route above the default route in the register routes. So let's stop the run. Let's stop the run. And right before the default, which is right here, we're going to add the code that's shown on page 103, right there. Now this new route is called products index, and it creates a route that targets the index action method of the product controller class. We've created this to give the website a way to target the method when using URL links and forms. So the last thing to do in here is to basically make this thing work. there's a communication problem currently, so let's talk about it. Using routes and forms. I am on the bottom of page 103. Currently, the form that filters by category in the products index page works incorrectly. You already saw that. It's still trying to target the index method of the products controller class. All right. They mentioned there that the URL contains two arguments, sleeping and feeding, so the website simply filters by the first one it finds. In order to fix this issue, right here, in order to fix this issue, the HTML form containing the category filter needs to use the product index route, which will then enable it to remove all the parameters currently prefixed to the URL and then only target the index action method with the parameters submitted by the form. To do this, we want to go to our views products index.html. Let's keep this up just in case we need it. All right, views products index file. So this using line that we have right here we want to change it from begin form to begin route form with a big R. All right, html.beginRouteForm, and we want this to be products index. All right. Now, save, run the program. And it's telling us, of course, that we've got an error. All right, let's try to fix the error first and come back to it. So, did I do something wrong? Got that slash there, and I don't know how that got there. It's probably what it was. Let's double check. Okay, looks better. What was it? Sleep. Filter. Go to page 2. Then change the category to feeding. And click the filter button. And you can see we went to feeding. So the search result is now filtered. So we just have products in the feeding category. In other words, it's now working the way that it should be working. All right. The author mentions here in this note on the top of page 104, HTML forms can only be configured to submit to routes. They will not submit values in the form of routing, for example. This is because the default behavior of HTML forms is to submit URLs in this format. All right. Using a route in a hyperlink, the author says the final issue that needs to be resolved is that of the view all our products link does not show all the products if the user has filtered by category. So it says update the views shared layout stop that. I'm going to save here. So the views shared layout file, where we've got our LIs in here, and we've got the view all our products. All right, this has to be changed to from an action link to a route link. All right, view all our products, and this has to then change to products index. And they mention there to pass extra parameters via the URL that targets a route, you simply add them into the link as an anonymous object. All right? So hopefully we didn't break anything. Let's run it one last time for this chapter. I know we're getting up over half an hour. Yep, I apologize in advance. But we have half a page to go, and then we're done with the chapter. All right? View all our products. Is it going to let us view everything? Page 1 of 6, so that looks good. All right. Finally, and it's been a long chapter, now that we have added some routes, it makes sense to stop Visual Studio from automatically loading the view that you are editing when you start the project. In Visual Studio, open the project menu and choose Baby Store Properties in order to view the project properties window. Well, remember, mine is called BS2, but that's still fine. So, open the project window, and down on the bottom, BS2 Properties. Then choose the Web section and set the Start action to specific page. Don't enter a value. Simply setting this option will make the page load the home page. So let's save. Let's close this, close this, close this, close this. Let's go back to let's just start it in shared, and we'll, not shared. All right, we'll start at projects here. And let's just run it. Okay, and I believe, because they don't show us anything else, that that's how it was supposed to work. All right, before we go on to Chapter 6, as always, let's go to our Team Explorer, and I'm again going to go to Changes. Before I do this, I want to go to Action, View History, and this will now say Chapter 5 completed. Chapter 5 completed. Learned how to, number 1, sort products by price. From there, we went and we learned how to add paging to the product's index page via the paged list.mvc package. We'll say NuGet package. And finally, the last thing that we learned in here was how to sort, how to add, and how to use ASP.NET routing so that the website now displays so-called friendly URLs for category and for categories and paging. That is it. So commit. Let's view our history again. There's our chapter 5 is now completed. All right. So when I get back in just a couple minutes, we will be starting on chapter 6, which is one of the longer chapters in the book. All right. Chapter 6 is going to discuss managing product images and many-to-many relationships. One thing that I'm going to have to do is to go out to the website and grab their code. Sorry, not their code. But for chapter 6, I'm going to have to grab all of their images. All right. I'll be back with that shortly.